Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to learn how to model a 2x3 Lego brick, including all the internal structure on the underside of the brick. This will be a lot of fun. We'll learn some new techniques today, and let's get to it. So I've done a few things in advance. First of all, I've taken a bunch of measurements on the Lego piece, so we're ready to go with what numbers sizes we're going to need. And now we need to just open up and save our file. So we're going to call this a Lego 2x3 brick. And we need to put that into a location. So we're going to click on the down arrow right here. And we're going to create a new project. And what a project is, it's a place to store similar models. Lego bricks. We're going to model several Lego bricks, so it'll be nice to have a place to store them all. I'm going to click save. That's going to save my project. And then I just need to click on it, and notice it changed the location here. Now it's saving in Lego bricks. Oftentimes a project will be, if you're working on something really complicated that has multiple components, you'll model each component in a separate file and then bring them all together at the end, and in the meantime you'll store them in the project folder, in one project folder. We'll hit save here and we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to model this Lego brick by modeling first of all the bottom rectangle, drawing it, and then extruding up to fill the block in. So let's get to it. I'm going to click on create a sketch, and I'm going to choose the bottom plane to create the sketch on. I'm going to grab my 2-point rectangle tool, and I'm going to go here in the center and over. And actually before I do that, I've noticed that my units here are centimeters. This Lego brick is so small that using centimeters is going to be inconvenient, so I'm going to switch over to millimeters. So I'm going to hit escape first. I'm going to come over to document settings, and where it says centimeters, I'm going to do change active units, and I'm just going to select millimeters and click OK. I'm not going to set as default because most of the things we'll model in this class are going to be large enough where centimeters is a good unit. But you could click as default. You could just change it later. Alright, so back to it now. 2-point rectangle. I need this to be 16 millimeters and 24 millimeters across that way. So notice how this number on the right is highlighted already. That means I can just type in the actual value, 16 millimeters, and adjust the height of it. Now there's another one there that says 32.558 millimeters. To get to that one, I press the tab button, and now I'm in that one. And I can just say this one's supposed to be 24. Okay, and then I just hit enter, and it just drew a rectangle by 16 by 24. Now I need to extrude this rectangle, so I'm going to push E, and I'm going to say that's what I'm going to extrude, and I want to extrude this up, and I want to extrude it up 10 millimeters. That is my Lego brick. Now it's kind of far away, so I'm going to zoom in, and if you have a roller ball on your mouse, remember you can just roll that up and down to zoom in and out. Otherwise, click down here and just highlight real quick. And it'll zoom you in pretty nicely. You could also click on the zoom lens next to it, and then when you click on the screen and then you go up and down, it zooms you in and out when you go up and down on the screen. Okay, and then when we get out of that by escape. Now we need to do the 6 nubs on top, so let's draw those. I'm going to say create a sketch. I want to create the sketch on the top of the Lego brick. I'm going to grab my circle tool, and I'm going to draw a circle, and that circle should be 5 millimeters in diameter. Click enter, and I have a circle that I could place anywhere. Now here's the deal. We can't just eyeball it and say, I think that's about where it's supposed to be, because if this brick's going to fit another brick, that's got to be placed perfectly. So I've taken all the measurements here, and it's 4 millimeters. This circle is 4 millimeters away from this edge and 4 millimeters away from this edge. Now to get that perfectly positioned, Fusion has a great tool called Dimension. If you click on the Create menu here, come down here to Dimension, and notice the shortcut key is D. We'll use D from now on to find the Dimension tool. But we click on Dimension, we come over here to the center, and when I click on it, see how it got brighter? Less bright, brighter. It's like a little white halo around it. When it's really bright like that, that's when you have it selected. So we're going to say, we're going to dimension how far it is from this center to this side. And notice it's giving me a thing. Then I come up here off to the side and hit click and click. And I want that to be 4, not that 4.0 number. So I'm going to say 4, boom. You notice that it moved the circle over just a little bit. Now, what does it mean for the circle to be blue? When I first drew it, the circle was blue, and that means that it could be moved around. Well, it's still blue even though I've restricted its motion here, but watch what it can do now. I cannot move it. Whoops, let me grab the blue. Sorry, let me escape out of the, I was still in the dimensioning tool. I can move this up and down, but I can't move it left and right because if I told it, it has to be 4 millimeters from this side. So now I'll do the same thing, but I'll do 4 millimeters between here and the top, the outside of the brick. So I'm going to hit D for dimensioning. I'm going to click on the middle until I see it get bright. There it was. And then here, and then over here. Right now it's 7 millimeters away. I want it to be just 4. I'm going to type in 4, hit OK. Now this circle is no longer blue when I'm not hovering on it because now it cannot be moved. So if I click on it, I've got it. Whoop. Cancel. I'm still in the dimensioning tool. Sorry, let me escape out of that. I highlight it and I can try and drag it, but I can't. It's now locked in place. So that's how to use the dimensioning tool to position something very precisely in your model. Now we're going to learn how to take this 1 and turn it into a pattern of 6. So we're going to go over here to the Create menu and we're going to choose Rectangular Pattern. The Pattern menu pops up here and also this little sub menu here. The first thing it asks you is, hey, what objects do you want to repeat a pattern with? Well, we want this circle to be repeated. So bam, click on that circle. And notice when we do that, these 2 arrows pop up. If we just grab this arrow and drag it the direction we want the pattern to repeat, it repeats right out there for us. And we can also choose the number of times it repeats. So if I choose that to be 4, it'll put 4 on there. 5, 6, 7, it'll just go as many as high as I want. So I can go as high as I need to go, but we only want 3, so I'll change that back to 3. And what it's asking for right now is how far is the middle of the first circle away from the middle of the last circle. And that should be actually, there's 8 millimeters between each circle, so I need a total of 16 millimeters there. So this is a little too high. I'm going to change this to 16. And this negative number, all it means is that it, for whatever reason, it thought the pattern was going to go to the left. But we really wanted to go to the right, so right to the right in this case is a negative number, and to the left is positive. If I change this to positive, watch what happens. It just switches the pattern to the exact other side. So all negative numbers do in Fusion is it switches the side that they're happening on. All right, now we've gotten those 3 done. Now we need the bottom 3 knocked out. And to do that, I'm just going to grab straight down this way. Now notice it created a pattern of 3, but I don't want that. I only want 2, so I'm going to click that down to 2. And then the separation between this one and the bottom row is only 8 millimeters, so I'm going to change that 9 to 8. And now they're all perfectly placed. Now notice that all of these showed up as black and not blue, so if I click on them, I can't actually move them because their position is fixed based on this first one, which is fixed. So now they're all locked in place exactly where they're supposed to be. Awesome news. So now what we need to do is extrude them. So I'm going to hit E, and it's going to ask me, hey, what things do you want to extrude up here? And I'm going to say, I want to extrude that, 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 and that. Awesome. And if I accidentally clicked on something extra, like I clicked on this, or I clicked on that, or I'm like, oh man, that's really messed up. If I just click back, what did I do? I really did mess that up. Oh, it changes to -10 here. Put this back to 0. If I click on something that's too much, all I do is click on it again and it'll unselect it. So it's really easy to move around with this. Now notice I can do 2 things here. I can grab this up and I can extend them up and extrude them out into new material, which is really cool. Obviously that's way too high for a Lego brick, but the other really cool thing you can do is you can actually extrude down into the object and cut holes. So if I go like this, I've just cut holes into it instead of creating little nubs on top. but I want them on this side. So this is the positive side. Notice when I go below the surface, it just becomes a negative number. So that's all negatives mean in Fusion. And this should be a 1.8 millimeters for the height here. So I'm going to change this to 1.8 and then hit enter. And now I have the nubs all done. So now I'm going to flip it and we're going to work on the bottom. So I need to carve out this inside piece. To do that, we're going to use a function. So I'm going to click on the sketch tool and I'm going to click on the bottom because that's where we're going to be sketching. And we're going to use what's called the offset tool to draw a rectangle inside this bigger rectangle. So I'm going to come here to the modify and do offset. It's going to ask me what do you offset from, and I'm going to say, see how it's highlighting this big blue square? Let me zoom in a little bit. It's highlighting the rectangle all the way around. I click, okay, I'm going to offset from that. And it's asking me how much I want to offset by. And the wall thickness here that I want to offset off by is 0.11. Sorry, 1.1. So I want it to be 1.1. But notice how this red line is offsetting on the outside of the rectangle. I want it to be on the inside of the rectangle. So that means I just got to change the positive to a negative. Remember, negative numbers just switch the direction it's going. So instead of being outside the rectangle, it's inside. I could also grab this tool and adjust it in and out if I want to do it by eye. But I know what my number is. It is negative 1.1. So I'm going to pop that in and get the precise one. Hit enter. Now I've created a rectangle on the inside. I just need to extrude. So I'm going to hit E for extrude. And then I'm going to click here. I'm going to bring it back to a perspective so I can see what's happening. And this time I'm going to extrude down. And I want to extrude down 8.5 millimeters. So I'm going to do a negative 8.5. And I can see how far it's going to cut down into there. And that's going to leave a really nice amount of material everywhere around. And then I'm just going to say OK. Now I've cut out the hole. I need to worry about all this weirdness on the inside. The first thing I notice is that each nub has a little hole drilled in it almost. Like there's some missing material in the in these little nubs. They're kind of hollow. The reason Lego does that, you might think, well, that's just a dumb thing to do. The reason they do that is that taking material out of the middle of this nub, or not putting it there in the first place, I should say, doesn't make the nub any weaker. So it's still just as strong as it was before, but what they found is it just uses less plastic now. And you might say, wow, that's a small amount of plastic to save, but if you're making, 10 million of these a year, saving that little bit of plastic on each nub that you make on a Lego could be tens of thousands of dollars in savings. So let's cut those first. Let's get those in first. So we're going to click Create Sketch. And we want to create a sketch down here on this inside of the top of the Lego. And we need to center those little circles that we're going to extrude out and remove material from on the nubs on top. But we can't see them right now. But that's okay because Fusion has this great tool called Project. So what I'm going to do is go back to the top where I can see all the nubs. And I'm going to come over here to Create. I'm going to create a projection. I'm going to project these things. So what this does is, remember, we're sketching on the inside bottom of this curve. See where the graph paper kind of intersects with the cube? This is our sketch plane. That's where we're sketching on the underside. So I'm going to say, I want you to mark, boom, this one. Now notice when I hover over it, it creates this red circle down there. That's showing me what it's going to draw on my sketch plane. So click there. The red turns to purple, which means it's been drawn. And then I do that one and that one. I'm just going to click on all of these and tell it, draw those purple things on my sketch plane for me. Draw those shapes so I can see where they are and work with them. So I'm going to flip the cube back over, and sure enough, there are my there's the nubs. So now I know where they are. I can draw the other circles. So right now, like, the cube is starting to get in the way a little bit. It's kind of hard to see what we're doing. So what I'm going to do is go over here to the bodies menu over here, click on it. Uh-oh, it won't let me right now. We'll do that later. Oh, I haven't clicked OK yet. So I was still in the project menu. That's why it wouldn't let me do anything. So I'm going to go over here to the bodies menu. I'm going to highlight all the bodies. This is our Lego piece. So I'm going to rename that by just clicking on it and saying Lego. And now I'm going to hide the Lego piece. Watch what that's done. The Lego piece has disappeared. We're just sketching. Now it's not in our way. We don't have to worry about seeing it. We didn't delete it though. We just hid it. So if I click the eye back on, it's back. So I click it off and then now it's going to be gone and I can do my sketch. So what I want to do is put a small circle in the middle of all these circles, and then I'll bring the Lego back and we'll extrude it. So first of all, circle here, and these are all going to be 3 millimeters. Enter, and I'm just going to do a quick pattern repeat, just like I did before. Rectangular pattern. I'm going to drag it this way. I only want 2, and I want an 8 millimeter difference. This one I want 3 and I want 16, so that's all good. And now I'm ready to go back and do some extrusion. So I'm going to turn the cube back on. And turn the cube off is optional. If you don't like doing that, don't do it. I'm going to hit the extrude button. I'm going to tell it what things I want to extrude. These are those little holes in the middle. And I'm going to rotate it so I can see how far I'm extruding it. Watch how nice that is. Because this I couldn't measure, it was too hard to measure, so I'm just going to extrude into those little nubs a little bit. Yeah, something like that. So maybe 2 millimeters it looks like. And then I'm going to click OK. And now I just cut away that plastic. So when we go to make this piece, we're not wasting plastic filling in this hole.